Hi, I'm Miss Kara. I work at Bluegrass Green Source, and we're grateful to Live Green Lexington for allowing us to bring these awesome, fun activities to you today. We hope you enjoy.
Today, we're going to be learning about streams and how streams flow. So, I want you to think about for a second, what do streams look like? Show me with your hands. How would you make a stream with your hands and arms? I can't see them, but I imagine you probably did something that looks like this, right? Me too. When I think about a stream, I typically think of it having little curves, right? And we have that because most of our streams do have that general kind of shape. Now, what's another way that you might see a stream? Yeah, sometimes you might see a stream that looks just like pretty straight, right? Well, we have those as well. These two streams have different names. We call this stream a meandering stream, and this stream is called a straight stream. So, I'm going to spell that for you. Meandering and straight. The meandering stream gets its name from these little bends. We call those meanders, okay? Now, think about as the water flows, each of these meanders has what's called an inside and an outside. So make a little meander with your hand. It's going to look just like this. If this is your meander, show me what the inside of the meander looks like. Where is the inside of your meander? Where is the outside of the meander? If you said this for the inside of the meander, you're correct. Just like this is the inside of your hand, this would be the inside of the meander. That would mean that this is the outside. Inside of the meander and outside. Now that changes, or it doesn't really change rather, I should say, as the stream goes on. Because when I come over here, my hand doesn't bend that way. So I would just turn it. Now this side is going to be that's right, the inside. And this would be the outside. And so on and so forth. Now the reason our streams typically flow like that is because, well, water is always trying to get to the ocean, right? It's trying to get there, it's trying to flow there. And water always flows what direction? We know that water always flows down. It's not flowing up, it's not flowing west, it's not flowing north. Water is flowing down. Thank you. Now, here's the problem though. Topography gets in the way. Topography is also known as the shape of the land. So as water's trying to flow from high to low, from up to down, things get in the way, like mountains and hills. So as water's flowing down to get to the ocean, things kind of get in the way, causing water to kind of flow in different routes. So it meanders back and forth. Now, over time, we do see that a lot of our meandering streams do become straight streams, because as erosion starts to move things along, it kind of straightens out and we get things like oxbow lakes that look something like that. But we'll talk about that in a second. Now, think about this. Where do you think we see more erosion happening? Which do you think moves faster? Do you think water moves faster in a meandering stream or in a straight stream? If you're not sure, it's probably because there are several factors that might impact that. But if all things were the same except for the shape, water's probably going to move faster in a straight stream. And that's because there's not so many things getting in the way. Water's moving faster. Now, which do you think has more erosion? The straight stream or the meandering stream? I'm not going to answer that just yet, because we're going to look at my model and we're going to look at that up close. Just 1 second. All right, so let's look at our model and let's look and see what happens when we start letting water flow through our stream today. Now, think about what we just saw. Is this a meandering stream or a straight stream? That's right. It's a meandering stream. We can tell because of the meanders. This cow, you'll notice, is along the inside of the meander, and this cow is along the outside. We're going to see which cow stays along its stream bank and which one might be going for a swim today, based on erosion and how it's happening. You see, meandering streams have different rates of erosion for the outside of the meander and the inside. Real quick, take a moment. Which do you think is going to see more erosion? The outside or the inside? All right, hold on to that thought and let's find out. So, our stream begins to flow, and again, you'll notice it's going from high to low because water flows what direction? That's right, it flows down. So here comes the water. Now you may notice you can almost see the currents as it hits right along the outside of our meanders. Oh, there goes a cow. So let's pause it and let's take a chance to look at this. Again, you may have noticed some of that current hitting along the outside, and that's because water is always trying to move in a straight line. Again, it wants to get to the ocean as quickly as possible. So water is going to go straight line, and it's going to bend around because, again, there are things in the way. Straight line, bend around a little bit, straight line, bend around a little bit, and flow on down. As a result, we tend to see more erosion happen along the outside of our meander. Let's move my outside cow for a second and take a peek. You can see the way the water has actually carved out this portion here. We are looking for signs of erosion. Now, we know that erosion is a slow process that happens as wind, water, ice change the shape of the earth by moving particles along. Weathering has broken down sediment along the side of the riverbank, and the erosion has started to take things away. So we can find signs of erosion by looking at two things. A, where the sediment was, and B, the deposition, where it ended up. So look here, you can see quite a bit of deposition left inside my stream. That's because the meanders actually slow down the stream a little bit and capture some of that sediment. Over time, my stream is going to become longer and take a little bit more loops as the water continues to carve it out and deposit sediment along the way. So, today, my cow on the outside of the meander took a swim. Well, you can tell that my cow along the inside of the meander stayed put pretty well. So we know now that erosion happens more along the outside of the meander. Now, we tend to change streams sometimes, and as I mentioned earlier, streams also change for other natural reasons. So we'll talk about why that is in just a moment with my guest friend, Lindsay. But first, let's go ahead and change this up, and let's see what happens along a straight stream. Bear with me here. All right, now we have a straight stream. You may have noticed that there's not much deposition that was left down at the end of our stream. And that's again because our meandering stream captured that along each of the insides. But let's look at our straight stream and let's see, is the water gonna move faster? Are we gonna see more erosion? What's gonna happen? So I'm gonna put both of my cows back. So I have this cow here. I'm gonna put this cow on this side. Now, make a prediction. Do you think that erosion is gonna happen faster along both sides? Or do you think it's not really gonna happen that much because the water's moving too fast? What do you think? All right, let's find out. Here comes the water. Now you may notice the water is already moving quite fast, and a lot of our deposition is happening where? That's right, it's happening downstream. Now we have some deposition that still occurred along the inside of our channels, but a lot of it starts to move down this way. Now, today my cow survived, but you can already start to see that some of that erosion was happening along the stream banks pretty quickly. And if I had continued to pour water, both of my cows absolutely would have ended up in the stream today. Now, along this side, I can also see quite a few happening. And then over here, you can see quite a bit of the erosion from where the original source of the water was, started to move down quite a bit too. So look at my stream. You can tell that there was more erosion happening along both sides. And again, not so much deposition happening along the inside, as much of it is happening downstream. Now, what kind of implications do you think that might happen for people living downstream? Do you think that they're going to have more water, less water, more deposition, less deposition? And what impacts is going to happen to their everyday lives? Imagine that you have a house downstream from this area here. How is your life different now? All right, let's talk to my friend Lindsay Nicholas, who is a civil engineer and an expert on how these things affect our community. Are you ready? Let's talk. All right, we're here with my friend Lindsay Nicholas, again, a civil engineer who actually works with me here at Bluegrass Green Source. Lindsay, thanks for joining me.
Of course.
All right, so what happens with this? Why do streams get straighter over time? Do we ever do that ourselves as communities?
Yeah, so basically, a lot of times what you'll see is if someone owns a piece of land and they want to farm on it or develop it and build buildings or parking lots and that kind of thing, a lot of times you'll see people come in and straighten a stream. And you say, why would they do that? And so the answer is most likely they're worried about flooding and they want that water to be off their property as quickly as possible. So a lot of times you'll see that straightened stream because, like you mentioned earlier, the water goes faster and it can handle more of it when it's straight. Now, with that, you get a lot of those problems downstream. So we may be getting all of the water off of our property quickly, but we're affecting people downstream with more sediment and more water a lot faster.
So what does that mean for communities downstream? Do we ever have communities that have to challenge or work against other people? Like, do we see things where they have to figure out how to mitigate these problems?
Yeah, so you'll see in a lot of urban areas where there might be development upstream at the top part of a watershed, which you've learned about, and when it affects people downstream, then they have to go back and say you need to implement different or put in different practices on your land where you straighten the stream to make that less of an impact downstream. So whether that's meandering your stream and adding those meanders back in, or doing things on your property to slow the water down before it gets to your channelized stream.
What's something that we can do to slow the water down?
So we could do things like rain gardens coming off of our roofs. And if we have downspouts, we can direct that water into a rain garden. You can also redo your stream to add those meanders back in and slow down the water that way too.
Oh, cool. Now, I've also heard about these things called wetlands. Would a wetland be something that we could incorporate into this model to help slow things down?
Yeah, definitely. And even if you wanted to include, I heard you mention earlier the elbow.
Yeah.
If you added that into your meander and let the water kind of slowly dissipate or go and enter into that section of the stream and into a wetland, it slows it down and then the water eventually goes back into the stream.
That's pretty cool. So I hope that you all realize that, we do see impacts on our neighborhoods, and we see things like flooding or increased deposition in our communities, which is a big problem for people who live downstreams, whether that's a homeowner by themselves or a whole urban city, right? Yeah, so if we're talking about how our environment impacts our everyday lives and how we can change things to help reduce that, maybe, again, taking some of those suggestions by adding meanders or adding rain gardens or wetlands helps to do that.
A stream is always going to erode. It's just how quickly it erodes. So when we let it naturally erode through its meanders, it gives it that time to do it and affects downstream neighbors a lot less, whether it's on a farm or in your city and in your backyard.
That's pretty cool. Thank you so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Friends, thank you all so much, and I hope that you learned something today.